Hey guys, so we're going to be reading an excerpt from your textbook, which most of you have at school, so I just went ahead and made it a PDF. I'm going to read it to you. I'm probably going to do a little interjecting and say a few things as we go, and then I'll explain what you need to do for the rest of your assignment today. So if you will, look at the page that I have on the screen. It says the Declaration of Independence at the top. We just read a piece from another book, and this kind of takes on after that part in history. So here we go. It says, in June of 1776, a committee was appointed by Congress to write the Declaration of Independence, a document stating that the colonies were independent from Great Britain. The committee members were John Adams of Massachusetts, Benjamin Franklin of Pennsylvania, Robert Livingston of New York, Roger Sherman of Connecticut, and Thomas Jefferson of Virginia. The members of the committee decided that Jefferson would write the first draft, and we primarily think of who wrote the Declaration was Jefferson, but these other guys were involved as well. Where it says writing begins, Jefferson worked on the draft for 2 weeks. Then Franklin and Adams made some changes and presented the draft to Congress on June 28th. Throughout the hot summer days of early July, delegates discussed the final wording of the Declaration. Adams later said he was delighted with Jefferson's high tone, yet later wrote, "There were other expressions which I thought too much like scolding." And we'll read on to find out what he means by that. Jefferson included a list of crimes that he accused the king of committing. Other delegates wanted to remove parts of this section before sending it to the king. So they were a little bit nervous about telling the king all the things he had been doing wrong. They're already going to get themselves in hot water by writing this declaration, but adding to it the things that they thought the king was doing that were crimes is probably going to make the king pretty annoyed. So they were a little bit reluctant to do that. That's why they were kind of wanting to take that out. Goes on in the last paragraph on this page to say, Jefferson had also attacked the slave trade. Representatives from the southern colonies, whose economy depended on slavery, removed words attacking slavery and the slave trade. And we know that they don't take slavery out of the United States as far as abolishing it until Abraham Lincoln becomes president much later in 1863. So they ended up not taking slavery out there. They had an opportunity, but they decided not to because they weren't sure that it would get passed through. So you can see there in the picture, George Washington is reading the Declaration to his soldiers. George Washington was a pretty big guy, and people very much respected him. Okay, moving on to the next page, it says, the power of Jefferson's words inspired the delegates, but the final statement of the document made the most important point. The good people of these colonies solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and right ought to be free and independent states. So they're saying, all right, we are free of Great Britain's rule. No more King George telling us what to do. And so let's see how that goes. It says approval and signing. At last, the delegates were satisfied. They passed the final version of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776. And we all know that date is the day that we shoot off fireworks and celebrate. But remember, that's because it's the birth of America. That's what we're celebrating. It's like our birthday. We like to celebrate. I think we should probably add cake to the whole July 4th celebration too, since we do on our birthday. Sorry. If you continue on in that paragraph, it says John Hancock, as president, signed it first. He said that he wrote his name large enough for the king to read without his glasses. Americans still celebrate this date as Independence Day. So John Hancock did not want the king to miss the fact that he signed it. He signs it at the middle, at the bottom, in huge handwriting. So when I sign your planners in the morning and I say, let me give you my John Hancock, that's because John Hancock is kind of a phrase that we've coined for signature because his signature was so famous, or maybe we should say infamous, because he was doing wrong against the king by signing it. It goes on in that second paragraph in this section to say, soon copies of the Declaration were sent throughout the colonies. On July 19th, Congress ordered a special copy of the Declaration to be written on parchment, a sheepskin paper used for important documents. Its new title was the Unanimous Declaration of the 13 United States of America. It was the first time the name of the new country was used in an official document. Remember, we only had 13 colonies. Now they're calling themselves states. So we don't have 50 yet. 50 doesn't happen for quite some time. We add them on as we go throughout the next 100, 200 years. So the last paragraph there says, on August 2nd, the other delegates added their signatures under Hancock's, which was the largest. Eventually, 56 delegates signed the document. Every person who signed it became an enemy of the king and could be hanged. Declaring independence was a risk, a great risk, it says. If you are one of those 56 people, you are taking, into consideration that if you lost this Revolutionary War, the king could have you hanged for treason. Treason is a crime of being disloyal to your country. So you're really taking a huge risk, but to them it was worth it to become their own country. All right, so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to go, I put up a Google slideshow, and it looks like this, okay? It has notes for pages 168 to 169 in the textbook at the beginning, and then what you will do is fill in the blanks as you go through, and then you're going to share that with me, okay? The thing you'll do after that is you will watch a history.com video clip. It's only about 4 minutes long, and it's going to show you some more information about the story of us and our history with the Declaration of Independence. So I like to get that in there. Something I'm going to link you to in Google Classroom that you can look at is also, what is the text of the Declaration of Independence? What does it really say? How did they talk back then? What are some of the things they included in there? They were telling, the king, hey, we're going to be our own country. This is why. And the rest of the world now needs to know that we're going to be America and our own states. We're no longer going to be British colonies. We're going to tell you, what we think is our right and things like that. So go ahead and take a gander through that. There's not going to be questions about it, but I thought you might like to read it. Okay. At the very end today, the last thing I want you to do is the Declaration of Independence exit slip. There's just 2 questions that I want you to think about, and they're not, a lot of them are your opinion, but also kind of based on what you've learned after the videos and the text and everything that we've done today. All right, well, good luck, and I'll see you tomorrow.